Welcome, everyone, to CDO's Magazine series of one-on-one interviews with CDOs, data leaders, and key influencers. I'm your host, Robert Lutton, Vice President, Sandhill Consultants, and I'm coming to you today from Toronto, Canada, working with the CDO Magazine. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Shashank Garg, who is the founder and CEO of Infocepts. Welcome, Shashank.
Thank you, Robert. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy that we are doing this.
How do you think organizations can put generative AI to work for their business?
I know we went through a year of a lot of hype, and that towards the end of the year came out a lot of concerns, both from leadership on the AI ethics topic and compliance topic, and from the people side, from a genuine concern of what my future is, right? And that relates to how my role transforms and concerns about jobs as well. I think when we are talking to a lot of our customers and us internally, we are realizing that, as happens with any hype cycle, the concerns are overrated in the short term and underrated in the long term, right? So we are now coming to a level where there's very clear ways of thinking about this, and we think about this in three buckets. Better business operations when it comes to effectiveness. Second is business outcomes for the business, for your clients. So they are in the buckets of growing revenue, strengthening your brands, better customer service, better understanding of clients. So there is that bucket. And then the last bucket is sort of employee productivity or developer productivity, right? If I take each one of those, right, and just to share examples on business operations, right? So you take so we're talking to a CIO of a bank, and he said, we've got this loan portfolios, and at any point of time, we've got $1 billion worth of maybe a category of 1,000 loans that we are monitoring, loan portfolio monitoring, and we do it manually because we get so much external data. Right. There is PDFs, there is Wi-Fi signal data to look at occupancy. There's all kinds of data that comes in, which is impossible to structure. It takes too much time, so we just do it manually. So generative AI with their summarization capabilities offer a great opportunity to improve that business operation, make it very, very effective.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
If you look at the whole customer service, better customer service, looking at revenue growth, there is simple examples as, like a chatbot for shopping without ever going to a website. So you could literally go and use a conversational thing. Hey, I'm planning a party for my family, XYZ anniversary. I've got these. My family members include 1, 2, and 3. What do you recommend?
Yeah.
And out it goes and does all the search and curates it and makes it very, very easy, right? Or for a healthcare provider, help their patients to understand the medical bills, which is, as we know, so complex. I mean, even with all our PhD degrees, we fail to understand. Make it easy, right?
Maybe we could do that for taxes as well, Shashank.
that as well. Yeah. That as well. So there's those use cases that people are going after. On the developer side, I think it's very interesting. There are genuine cases where we have this construct called data apps, right? So the traditional data analytics referred to using tools to warehouse data, cleanse it, master it, right, secure it, and then report on it, right? And those interfaces were often locked in what used to be called BI tools or analytical tools, right? And we all know, you've done this for 2 decades, and we all know that they have their own limitations, right? Sure. But now we are writing very, very deep and immersive UX on top of these tools. Using the same data, same curated data sets, you have this opportunity to build data apps. You can do one a week, which used to take 6-month cycles and would never get done.
Yeah.
Right. So I think those are some of the opportunities that I'm seeing that I'm very, very excited about. We see on the GenAI side. Now, coming to how do you go about capitalizing on this opportunity, right? And I'll talk about it in sort of 2 buckets, right? First, you have to decide for which use case are you gonna, and I use this, ride, rent, own as a part of a white paper, right? So are you
Right.
going to just take something that exists like an app and just write it and pay per use? That's one way. That's the shortest possible way. Obviously, the quickest time to value, low cost, but no moat, right? There is nothing that you're doing differentiating for your business which sets you apart there, right?
Right.
You can rent it, so shorter time to value, medium cost, but low moat, right? But I think where it gets very, very interesting, especially organizations which have been doing a great job, which a lot of companies have been on curating their data sets for many years. You want to bring in a model, an open source model, a proprietary model, and train that on your proprietary data so that, it may take longer. And now longer doesn't mean years. We are talking weeks or months.
Right. Right.
I
Yep.
mean, it's not that long, but it can be extremely high cost. And I was talking to, we're working with a hedge fund, and he's saying we get all these external signals, and he wants to build. We're building a what's called a M&A detection tool,
Right.
right? And right now, the way they do it, this is a fairly large hedge fund. Right now, the way they
Sure.
do it, they look at news articles. Somebody mentioned something about this about a firm and put a list out together and just anecdotal evidence. And there's a group of analysts who put something together for the hedge fund manager. Very, very cumbersome, right?
Sure. Very manual, very costly as well.
There
Those
is no
resources.
reason why
Yeah.
you can't take a model, which is great at consuming all these external sources of data, train it over time, which becomes your own IP, your fund's IP on the M&A predictions, right?
Yep. Yeah. You can see a lot of use cases for that if you train it on your own data sets and turn those models around. Um,
And so
the
lastly, right, how do
yeah,
you, so what's the process? If you're an organization, what's the process you want to follow? What are the things to keep in mind as you embark on this journey, right? I think what we're seeing working here, I'll make a few quick points. That one,
sure.
I think this is the kind of disruption where you have to source ideas from everyone, all your employees. I wouldn't assume that the best ideas sit with the leaders because we are way too set in the ways we think because we created all those organizational structures, processes, and this is a true disruptor.
Yeah.
And we run hackathons ourselves now. We used to do once a year, now we do once a quarter. And every time we do it, we just come up with so many great ideas on behalf of our clients. And we're starting to do hackathons for our clients, right? Um, you have to challenge the old norms on productivity. This is not the time where you give a 5% gain, 10% gain. This is the time where you start with 80% and then come down to see what actual gain you can get. Again, just challenge yourself to think differently here. And lastly, you can't like one, this is again a topic, and I go back to that AI council to have a good mix of business users and
Yes.
the techies who think very differently, right? Um, you can't do it alone. Like businesses can't do it
No.
alone just by working with a vendor. Tech cannot do it on behalf of the business just by innovating in their own silos. So fundamental cross-functional process is what we need to adopt to make it happen.
A lot of good points, and I really do like the kind of co-relationship of the AI Council. Moving on to another key point in your book, and you just mentioned it at the beginning, is from your point of view, how do you think clients could develop their full stack of data products for their business to produce the results and not just insights?
See, if you look at the traditional ways of how people think about a data product, right? You start with the data team, they produce some data product which are consumed by analysts who produce some insights that are consumed by business users who then propose actions that are taken by the operational users, right? So it's a
Yeah.
very sort of produce, consume, sort of a cyclical process, right? And that's what we have done for the last 2 decades because of the state of data, state of technology, state of systems, right?
Yeah.
What we are increasingly finding, and we've always known that this process is not the best because of the obvious disconnects that can happen at every cycle, at every sort of every handover. But now, with the state of technology, with cloud, with data becoming pervasive, with far many more people on the business side talking the data language, um, we are seeing that definition of data product is very limiting. So we define a data product as something that clearly starts with the personas it is addressing, with a focus on the end users of insights and not on the ones that are responsible, like the analysts, to generate them. Okay. Secondly, it sort of addresses the business use cases relevant to the chosen domain with consistent design patterns to achieve the business outcomes, which is the missing link. And it has to have a very, very intuitive application interface. It can be some BI tool because this is how the tool thinks, and this is structure. But if that's not how the user thinks, that's why you have had adoption problems for 2 decades. And we still talk about adoption problems of data products, right? So in this new paradigm, adoption is a given.
Yeah. And isn't that why generative AI and machine learning is gaining more popularity? Because it really has a very easy to use interface. It's a communicative type of interface where it's a question, answer, and results. And is that the results you're looking for? And if not, go back and rerun the test, rerun the model. Very simple, but it definitely makes it a lot easier to use.
So in our mind, we have to get out of the mindset that people have had for the last 5, 10, 15 years on how they have seen the data and analytics industry on, the data team produces some data, which the analyst consume to produce insights, and then business users consume it to make decisions. Right. It's a very, that's not the way when you think about it. We reverse that. We start with the personas. We think about what decisions are they trying to make, what actions they could potentially take. We work backwards into decisions, and then everything else gets created around them with a very, very intuitive UX.
So instead of a multi-step process where you're going from the analyst to the person who's going to generate the insights for the business user, you now really have got the business user persona going directly to the data with the AI solution, which is getting their insights directly, or at least first pass of those insights.
Yeah, I mean, it has, and we didn't talk about it, but obviously it has to be backed up with the supporting metadata. The entire stack is managed using versions, so the product can be built iteratively. The sort of the best practices of software building that have existed for a while now, right? They need to be applied as you build these products. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, all of this implies that AI and generative AI is only as good as the quality of good data that you have within your organization. So if you you don't have that, or if you have certain maybe biases in the data, the AI really can't interpret that. But
actually, we have an example. We put out a product, an offering called Employee 360, sort of one such managed data product. The viewers can go on our website, and if you're looking for a data product on the employee side and addressing variety of use cases, workforce planning, retention, performance, DEI, compensation analysis, you're welcome to sign up and use it. But also think of it an example of what you could do in everything else that you're doing. Apply the same thought process, a full stack data product.
Shashank, thank you very much indeed for your time today.
Thank you, Robert. And for the audience, I'm available on LinkedIn. Happy to take any questions. You can post your questions here or reach out to me on email or via LinkedIn.
And for our listeners, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thank you.